going in depth tonight. The journalist who co-authored a book on the Murdaugh trial is now donating the proceeds. This comes after the other co-author admitted to plagiarizing the preface of the book. Neil Gordon, Gallatin County Clerk of Court Becky Hill, wrote Behind the Doors of Justice. After Hill admitted to plagiarism, the book was pulled from shelves. However, it was still available on Amazon for several months. Well, Neil Gordon says he has now donated the proceeds to foundations in memory of Stephen Smith, whose death was given renewed attention following the Murdaugh murders. And Gordon also told us the other part of the profits were donated to the Gloria Satterfield Foundation. She was Murdaugh's former housekeeper. Murdaugh admitted to stealing her life insurance funds from her sons. And for much more on these donations, we are joined by the co-author of Behind the Doors of Justice, Neil Gordon. So, Mr. Gordon, thank you so much for taking some time with us here this evening. I think a lot has happened since we last talked to you in January, where we know Alec Murdaugh will not get a new double murder trial based on those allegations of jury tampering from Becky Hill. And so I think mainly, before we get to those donations, have you spoken to Ms. Hill recently?
A couple of times. She had a birthday fairly recently. We sent her a nice happy birthday message and such, but have not really chatted with her since she resigned.
And that leads me to my next question. When you saw that she is resigning as clerk of court, were you relieved, or what was your reaction to that decision from her to resign, then also not to run for re-election?
I knew she was not going to run for re-election. She had shared that. Was I surprised? Not necessarily. I think I was relieved for her. I think she was under an inordinate amount of pressure. And I think this will be good for her and probably just good for the state of South Carolina, just to kind of turn the page, if you will.
Has she apologized to you about this whole messy situation when it comes to the book specifically?
She did when I confronted her, and I kind of found the preface of the chapter, and it matched what the BBC reporter had sent a draft of her back in February. She did at the time. We didn't really discuss it. I'd love to be able to sit down with her and really understand how this sort of thing happened. I'm a little befuddled by it still.
You say befuddled today. Earlier when we spoke to you in January, you said you caught up in the Becky blender. Do you feel like, in a way, she took advantage of you, or do you feel like you were taken advantage of?
No, she's not a malicious person at all. I just think the moment was probably a little big for her. She's lived in Walterboro all of her life, and she tried to do the best she could. But remember, she was only a clerk of court for 6 months prior to the murder. So she had to get a crash course in the world descending upon Gallatin County and just dealing with sheriff deputies and all the jurors and the food and, the whole 9 yards. And I just think it was an overwhelming experience. Would have been for me, too.
Yeah. And it sounds like even after all of this, you're not too mad at her.
Well, we spent so much time, my wife and I and our 10-year-old daughter, with the Hills. I mean, we traveled back and forth and talked about the book, the interviews. We went on a promotional tour together. We, shared condos and shared good times. And so, I love her as a person. You can love somebody as a person and sort of dislike their conduct, if you will. Or I think, with other experiences, she might have done things a little differently. I think she would have if she could have.
And I want to get to those donations. Why take this step? Why did you feel it's necessary to take these net proceeds from the book and donate them, half to Stephen Smith and half to the Gloria Satterfield Foundation?
Well, my wife and I talked about it, and we just didn't feel good about accepting dollars. Ever since we learned, on December 22nd, that the book was tainted, we just felt an unease in our soul about it, and we just felt like praying about it and what we should do, and we just came up with wanting to do some good off of something pretty bad that occurred.
What do you hope this money goes towards and what it's used for?
Well, the nice part of it is it goes to help people who are needy in the Low Country. We learned about the wealth of the Murdaugh family and the legacy, but this is a really poor area for the most part. So with Gloria's gift, she's going to be able to provide some money to some families who need it, maybe even some gifts over the holidays. And my my wife was an OR tech at a hospital in Augusta for many years and was studying to become a nurse. So Stephen Smith's Memorial Scholarship, which mostly will go to nursing students, really touched her heart. And so I thought it was just the right thing for us to do.
All right. Well, Mr. Gordon, thank you so much for taking some time with us and sharing exactly where this money is now going. Thank you.